The snow burned her feet more than the flames ever had. Tharnix stumbled through the pine-covered mountain pass, half-conscious, every breath like a shard of glass in her throat. Her bare violet skin glistened with frostbite under the moonlight, every bruise from the crash now blackened against the freezing white world. Her only clothes were shreds of alien cloth clinging to her like a failed memory. The wreckage of her escape pod smoked in the ravine behind her, and the stars she once called home were now silent above. She collapsed near a wooden cabin, the only structure in this desolate region. A faint light flickered inside. Her strength was gone. Her pride was buried somewhere in the crash. There was nothing left of the warrior she had once been, only a lost, hunted alien in the snow. She barely noticed the crunch of boots approaching until the warmth of human breath fogged the air near her. His shadow towered over her fallen form, then dropped to one knee. "Jesus," the man muttered, voice rough with disbelief. "You're not from around here, are you?" She looked up, eyes wide and unblinking. Pale blue eyes locked with dark brown ones. "No, home," she rasped, her throat torn from the cold and smoke. He pulled off his red parka and wrapped it around her, ignoring the snow soaking his own shirt. "Then stay with me," he said, barely above a whisper. "Just stay." That was the first time she felt warmth that night. The man's name was Wyatt Callahan. A reclusive ex-Marine who'd chosen isolation after a dishonorable discharge and the loss of his entire unit to a corrupted command. He didn't ask questions, at least not the ones that mattered. He took her inside his log cabin, laid her near the hearth, and tried his best to warm her without touching her inappropriately. It was the first time in years Tharnix had been close to someone without instinctively reaching for a weapon. "What's your name?" he asked while tending a pot of stew. She hesitated. On her world, names were sacred, spoken only in battle or in love. "Tharnix," she said softly, watching the flames dance. Wyatt didn't flinch. "That's a strong name. And you are a human?" "Last I checked." She narrowed her gaze. "You're not afraid?" "Lady," he said with a half-smile, "after what I've seen, nothing surprises me anymore." In the following days, she healed slowly. Wyatt taught her how to use the firewood stove, how to wrap her wounds with clean gauze, and even how to eat human food, something Tharnix barely tolerated until she tasted his spicy venison stew. The physical pain faded, but the emotional scars lingered. She never told him what chased her, only that it came from the stars and wouldn't stop until she was dead or enslaved again. He didn't press. He didn't have to. She saw in his eyes that he understood pain. Every night she sat by the window, staring up at the stars with quiet rage. "I had a mate once," she told him one evening. "He betrayed me. Sold me to the ZYR Collective for a ship of his own." Wyatt said nothing. He just refilled her tea. "I killed him," she added without emotion. This time, Wyatt looked at her. "Good." That was the moment something shifted between them. Trust, small but real, like a seed beneath frost. Weeks passed. They trained together when she regained her strength. Wyatt had an old shed full of weapons, most of which he claimed were illegally forgotten by the government. Tharnix was impressed, not by the firepower, but by his discipline. He still fought like a soldier, every movement calculated. "You were elite," she said after sparring one morning. "Used to be. Why did you stop?" He hesitated. Then, "Because I stopped believing the people I served were worth killing for." She understood that. Deeply. One night, the stars flickered, and so did her hope. She sensed it first, the pulse of an alien beacon. The ZYR had found her. She grabbed Wyatt mid-dream, eyes wild with fear. "They're coming." "How many?" "At least a scout team. 2 days, maybe less." Wyatt sat up, no panic in his face. Just grim purpose. "Then we make a plan. You would fight for me?" He looked her dead in the eyes. "You're not some alien stranger anymore. You're my responsibility." "No," she said quietly. "I'm your mate, whether your kind uses that word or not." That was the first night she kissed him, gentle, unsure, but desperate. And he didn't pull away. The next 2 days were war prep chaos. They booby-trapped the surrounding woods, rigged Wyatt's old cabin with motion sensors, and reinforced the snow-buried escape pod to function as a last-ditch shelter. Tharnix wore a thermal suit Wyatt stitched together with scraps and human gear. Her violet skin shimmered like twilight steel as she slid the rifle strap over her shoulder. "If we die," she said, "we die together." Wyatt nodded. "But not today." The ZYRR came under cover of night, drifting silently in their obsidian skimmers. A pack of 7. More than expected. But Tharnix and Wyatt met them with bullets, blades, and fury. And for the first time in a long time, she fought for something. For him. The air stank of blood and burning ozone. Snow had stopped falling, as if even the sky was holding its breath for what came next. Wyatt pressed his back against the cabin wall, rifle held steady in both hands, sweat trailing down his temple despite the cold. Somewhere beyond the tree-line, a ZYRR hunter clanked its way through the snow, its sensory tentacles extended like blind fingers tasting the air. Tharnix crouched just ahead of him, her body low and feline, her breath misting as she waited for the moment to strike. The first scout had gone down fast, too fast, maybe. Wyatt had dropped him with a clean shot to the dome, but that only made the others cautious. Now they were using the forest, flanking patterns, slow advances. Tharnix turned to him, eyes glowing softly in the dark. "They'll come in from the north and east next. That's where they'll think we're weakest." Wyatt nodded. "That's where they'll die, then." She grinned, sharp and savage, then vanished into the trees. It was surreal, this woman who looked like she belonged to a painting of some forgotten goddess, moving like a ghost between the branches. Her body blended with the night, her senses far beyond human. And yet, despite all her alien power, she had chosen to trust him. To fight beside him. Wyatt wasn't going to let that faith go unanswered. The trap line sang minutes later, a burst of motion sensors and steel snap triggers. One of the ZYRR screamed as shrapnel tore through its bioarmor. Tharnix struck from the trees like a silent wind, her plasma blades glowing violet as they carved through flesh and cybernetics. Wyatt moved in behind her, firing burst after burst, suppressing the third and fourth scouts as Tharnix danced through the chaos. She was terrifyingly precise, cutting low and fast, always moving. The battle didn't last long, but it left scars. One of the scouts managed to get a claw into Wyatt's side, slicing through his coat and grazing his ribs before Tharnix hurled her blade through its neck. The creature fell in 2 directions, and she was at his side before he could fall. "You bleed so easily," she whispered, panic cracking her voice for the first time. "Good thing I don't die as easily," he muttered, gritting through the pain. She helped him back to the cabin, her strong arms braced beneath him. Inside, she tore open his jacket and worked quickly, using heated synth paste to close the wound. Her hands were shaking. "I thought I lost you," she said. "I thought you didn't care." She glared at him. "I care more than you understand, human." He reached up, brushing a hand against her jaw. "Try me." Their lips met again, not with desperation, but with need. The kind of need born from shared blood, from war, from promises made without words. Later, as he slept, Tharnix sat at the window again. The firelight glowed behind her, warming her skin, but her mind drifted far beyond. She'd once believed her size, her strength, her lineage made her unworthy of being loved. She was bred to be a weapon, a living siege engine meant to conquer or be conquered. Her people never mated for comfort. Only genetics. Utility. Lineage. But Wyatt saw her. Not as a machine. Not as a weapon. As a woman. When morning came, the forest was silent. The scouts were dead or fled. But Tharnix knew they would come again, stronger next time. They would not give up their prize so easily. So she made a decision. "I need to leave," she said, packing what little gear she had. Wyatt blinked. "Come again?" "They'll return. And I can't risk you. I'll draw them away, finish this, then." "You think I'd just let you go?" She turned, frustration in her voice. You don't understand. I was engineered by ZYR science. My body isn't just big, it's a signal. A marker. They'll follow my biology across the stars. Then we fight them together, he said, stepping closer. Or we run. But we don't split up. Not anymore. I'm not your responsibility, she snapped. You're not, he agreed. You're my partner. Maybe more. Her voice softened. I was designed to break things, Wyatt. Not build something with someone. He touched her cheek. Then let's build something they can't break. They didn't speak again for a while. But she didn't pack. Over the next week, Wyatt converted the cabin into a base. He scavenged pieces from Tharnix's crash site and fused them with his own gear. Fusion cells powering heaters, scanners installed into snow-covered trees, motion-triggered perimeter alarms strung like spiderwebs across the woods. Tharnix trained him in ZYR tactics while he taught her to appreciate Earth's unpredictability. Snowball ambushes became their odd form of laughter. Burnt toast their breakfast war. They became a team. More than a team. One night, she stood near the fireplace, firelight catching the silver in her hair, casting shadows down the smooth violet skin of her shoulders. She wore one of his old flannel shirts, oversized, and she held a cup of tea with both hands. Wyatt? Yeah? I'm scared. He looked up from the rifle he was cleaning. Me too, he said honestly. She walked to him and sat in his lap, curling into him like she belonged there. But this feels like something worth protecting. He held her close, one hand running through her thick hair. Then let's protect it together. Neither said the word. Not yet. But they both knew what it was. 2 nights later, the ZYR returned, not scouts this time, but hunters. War-bred, weaponized, ruthless. But Tharnix and Wyatt were ready. The trees lit up with explosions, mines turning snow into fire, and plasma bolts shredded the night. Tharnix led the defense, her body a blur of grace and fury. Wyatt worked from the roof, sniping with precision, each shot buying them more time. But they were outnumbered. At one point, she was tackled by a massive ZYR brute, its claws digging into her shoulders. She fought back with everything, knees, elbows, teeth. But the creature was strong. Too strong. Then came the shot. Straight through the ZYR's skull. Wyatt had leapt from the roof, taken the shot mid-air, and landed hard beside her. Get up! He shouted. We finish this together! And they did. One by one, they killed them all. Together. The final body hit the snow, steam rising from its severed limbs. The forest was quiet again. They stood over the battlefield, breathing hard, holding each other. Wyatt was bruised. Bleeding. But he was alive. Tharnix looked at him like he was the only star in her sky. Wyatt? Yeah? I think I'm pregnant. He blinked. She didn't smile. Not at first. I didn't think my species could carry a human hybrid. We're not built for it. My body is too. He cut her off with a kiss. Then we make a new kind of future. He whispered. Just you, me, and the kid. She laughed then. And cried. He held her while the snow fell around them, burying the bodies, erasing the past. All that mattered now was what they built. And who they'd become. The wind moaned through the forest like some old beast grieving its lost youth. Thick snow blanketed everything, muting sound and thought alike, but inside the log cabin, the world was changing. Tharnix lay on the fur-covered bed, the soft flicker of firelight dancing across her violet skin. Her long fingers rested on her belly, just above the place where something new stirred, something neither pure human nor pure ZYR. Wyatt sat across from her, legs apart, elbows on his knees, a heavy silence stretching between them. He looked at her not with fear, but awe. And something deeper. The kind of reverence no weapon could demand and no battlefield could earn. You're sure? He asked finally. Tharnix nodded. My kind rarely misread the signs. We were bred for reproductive precision. A faint laugh escaped him, disbelieving. Of course you were. She smiled. I didn't think it was possible. Not just the biology. But you. Staying. Wyatt moved to sit beside her, one hand brushing her hair from her face. I'm not going anywhere. You know that by now. I know you say it. Her eyes softened. But humans, your species, you have so many options. You could have returned to your colony, left me here. You still could. I wouldn't trade what we have for any colony or command. We're not just surviving anymore, Tharnix. We're living. She swallowed hard and rolled onto her side, pressing her forehead against his chest. Then we need to think bigger. He looked down. You mean the baby? I mean the future. For us. For them. They didn't speak for a while. The wind filled in the gaps. Eventually, Tharnix said, We can't stay hidden forever. The ZYRR won't stop hunting me, and if they discover I carry hybrid life, they'll come harder. We need to be ready. Wyatt nodded. We will be. He meant it. Over the following weeks, Wyatt and Tharnix began preparing for something far larger than their own survival. Wyatt tapped into old orbital beacons with scavenge tech, uploading coded messages to outer colonies where humans and allies monitored deep space channels. He disguised the signal in old Earth broadcast patterns, jazz music, archived nature shows, even 21st-century romantic comedies. Tharnix trained daily, her body adjusting strangely, beautifully, to the changes within her. Stronger senses. Faster reflexes. An instinct to protect that burned brighter than her warrior code ever had. They fortified the cabin, then the woods around it. Reinforced trees with plasma-charged nails. Built layered kill zones with motion traps and stealth mines. It wasn't just a shelter anymore. It was a fortress. A home. Wyatt carved runes into the logs of the cabin's entrance, not from superstition, but from memory. Earth symbols. Protection, courage, rebirth. And beside them, Tharnix carved hers, ZYRR script that hadn't been spoken since before the war. Her people's forgotten language, hidden behind a veil of violence and fear. Together, they made something sacred. One night, Tharnix stood by the frozen lake not far from the cabin, watching the moon reflect in its fractured ice. Wyatt joined her quietly, a wool blanket around both of them. She spoke first. I once believed love was a weakness. Something the breeders and the elders manipulated to control lineage. And now? He asked, voice low. Now I know it's the only reason I'm still alive. Wyatt kissed the crown of her head. You're not just alive, Tharnix. You're changing everything. She didn't reply. But she didn't have to. Trouble returned like winter always does, quietly at first. The motion sensors went dark one by one, blinking out along the west ridge. Wyatt noticed it over coffee. Tharnix was already strapping on her armor before he finished his sentence. This wasn't a scout patrol. It was an execution force. 7 ZYRR war beasts, bipedal, tank-sized, bred for planetary sweeps, led by a prime caste enforcer named Vreknar, Tharnix's half-brother. Wyatt and Tharnix watched them arrive from a hilltop perch, cloaked beneath snow-draped furs. She stared at them for a long time. You know him? Wyatt asked. He was my training rival. We were matched in strength, but he lacked control. The elders made me commander. He never forgave me. Let me guess, Wyatt said. He's not here for a family reunion. No. He's here to end what I started. To erase the shame of my escape. They returned to the cabin quickly. Wyatt began arming the traps while Tharnix tuned her twin plasma blades. We can't take them all, he admitted. No, she agreed. But we can make them pay. He grabbed her wrist gently. There's another option. What? We run. I've got a ship in low orbit now. Smugglers owed me a favor. We make a break east, launch, disappear. Tharnix hesitated. I said I'd stay, Wyatt continued. But I didn't say we had to die here. Her violet eyes searched his face. And if they follow? Then we'll be ready. It was enough. Dawn broke with fire. The cabin exploded in a bloom of white and red as the first of their traps triggered. A warbeast howled, metal splitting from its cyber spine. Plasma mines torched the snow to steam. But Vreknar pressed forward unshaken. Tharnix and Wyatt emerged from the opposite side, sprinting through snowdrifts, evading drone scans with jammers strapped to their belts. Overhead, clouds parted just enough to show the blinking descent of Wyatt's ship, an old courier class retrofitted for stealth. They almost made it. Almost. A rail spike from a warbeast's launcher clipped Tharnix's side. She stumbled, blood freezing in the air around her. Wyatt caught her, dragged her the last few meters to the launch pad. The ramp dropped. Inside, warm lights and humming energy called to them like salvation. But Vreknar landed behind them with a crash. "You cannot run from your blood, sister," he growled, stepping forward. Tharnix pushed Wyatt toward the ramp. "Go!" "No! I'll buy you time!" But he didn't move. Instead, Wyatt stepped between them. "She's not yours to claim. She's not ZYR anymore." Vreknar laughed. "Then she is nothing. Then I'll stand with nothing," Wyatt said, and raised his rifle. The standoff ended in one shot. Tharnix's plasma blade flew true, straight through her brother's throat. He staggered, dropped to his knees, and died with eyes wide in shock. They left the battlefield behind, climbing the ramp together. In orbit, silence blanketed the stars. Tharnix lay in the medbay, weak but alive. Wyatt sat beside her, fingers laced with hers. "You'll be safe now," he said. "We'll be safe," she corrected. Their child was strong. Even now, her body glowed faintly with the fusion of human resilience and ZYR precision. They didn't know where they would go, what world, what future awaited them. But they knew this. They were together. And that was enough. Somewhere in the dark beyond, a new story had already begun to grow. Wyatt leaned against the hull of the courier-class ship, his body worn and patched up from the fight, but his spirit soaring. For the first time in years, the silence of space wasn't empty. It was alive, with breath, with hope, with love. Tharnix floated in the medical bay's gravity-neutral field, a violet glow radiating softly from her skin. Her wounds were healing fast, faster than even ZYR biochemistry should allow. The child growing inside her was accelerating her recovery. She watched him through the glass. He hadn't left her side, not once. Even when exhausted, he'd only sat, eyes fixed on the door, as if willing nothing bad to ever reach her again. "Wyatt," she whispered through the comms. "Come in here." He smiled tiredly and entered. She reached for him. He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "You're glowing again," he said gently. "Blame the hybrid." She smiled faintly. "It's strong." He sat beside her. "So are you." Silence wrapped them for a moment, not awkward but reverent. Then Tharnix said, "We can't hide forever. Not with what's inside me. Not with what we've created." He nodded. "I know. Then we fight. Not to kill, but to prove we belong." Wyatt didn't need convincing. He'd already begun reaching out to underground human ZYR enclaves, the ones made of exiles, lovers, defectors, visionaries. Misfits like them. A revolution didn't always need fire to start. Sometimes it began with a heartbeat. Or two. The courier's ship was retrofitted, renamed Sanctum 1, and repurposed as a moving base. They recruited carefully. Some were human smugglers. Others were defected ZYR engineers who'd grown tired of the Empire's cold eugenics. There were even a few like Tharnix, runaways. Survivors. Their cause was simple: protect the future of hybrid life. Prove that love, not programming, could shape the galaxy. The baby was the symbol. The first. But not the last. News of Vreknar's death and Tharnix's survival spread faster than any of their team had anticipated. It ignited both fear and fascination. Among ZYR Command, it was heresy. Among the colonies, it was legend. They became known as the pair beyond code. Some wanted to kill them. Others wanted to worship them. But many, many more wanted to join them. Wyatt stood on the command deck, staring at the swarm of signals pinging their satellite systems. Friendly transmissions. Dozens. Then hundreds. Outcasts, lovers, rebels, hybrids unborn. He turned to Tharnix. You see this? She smiled. They believe. He stepped closer. I believed in you before anyone else. And I fell in love with the only human who didn't try to tame me. He smirked. Taming you was never an option. She kissed him then, hard and full, like she was marking him for the stars to see. Their child kicked in her belly. But revolutions don't go unanswered. The ZYR sent a dreadnought, a floating genocide engine, built for planetary erasure. It would reach them in 2 Earth days. Wyatt didn't hesitate. He gathered every ally, every fighter, every satellite-linked drone in their pocket fleet. They'd built a coalition without borders, now it was time to defend it. The plan was suicidal on paper. Draw the dreadnought into the asteroid field near Delphi X, then use cloaked ships to detonate chained warheads through the rock spines, shattering the enemy hull in a controlled collapse. Tharnix refused to sit it out. You're carrying our child, Wyatt had argued. And I'm not carrying it into a grave, she answered. She took the field alongside him, armor adapted for her new body. Her strength had doubled. Her reflexes became something almost prophetic. In the heat of combat, she was myth incarnate. Wyatt led the second wave, targeting the dreadnought's gravity core. As the battle raged around them, space tore with lights and explosions, but he never lost sight of her. The way she moved. The way she fought. The way she lived. The plan worked, mostly. The core was breached. The dreadnought lost control, spiraling into the asteroid belt. Tharnix's ship was clipped by debris. Wyatt saw it vanish from the radar. He didn't hesitate. He launched from his fighter in a zero-G suit, crossed a kilometer of floating death and fire, and found her. Inside the twisted remains of her escape pod, she floated, dazed but breathing. He reached her. Pulled her into his arms in the cold, endless dark. You idiot, she said, blinking. Didn't want to raise our kid alone, he replied. And they both laughed. Because they'd survived. 6 standard months later, the first hybrid colony was founded in orbit around an ice-ringed moon once deemed uninhabitable. They named it Hearthseed. Tharnix gave birth under the twin auroras of the planet below. The child had her violet hue and his quiet gaze. She was perfect. Wyatt held them both close that night, wrapped in warmth and meaning. And under the stars that had once watched them suffer, he whispered again. Stay with me forever. Tharnix closed her eyes, tears falling freely. I'm already yours. Forever isn't long enough. CTA. Do you believe love can reshape worlds? That defiance born from compassion burns hotter than hate? Then join us. The frontier is wide. And our story is just beginning.